The children weren't supposed to be there. The moon station of Vatra 9 was an interspecies diplomatic node, with polished dark glass floors and guards whose job was mostly ceremonial. Here, treaties were signed, lies wrapped in velvet, and galactic egos stroked until they purred. It was not, under any circumstance, a place for human children with sticky fingers and louder-than-regulation sneakers. Yet, here they were. The boy, age 6, had wild copper curls and an unnatural talent for reprogramming alien vending machines with a safety pin and a peanut. His older sister, all of 9, carried herself like a small storm in boots, freckled, solemn, and always 3 thoughts deeper than anyone gave her credit for. Her name was Grace. His was Milo. Together, they turned the waiting lounge into a chaos lab, giggling as Milo taught the vending machine to dispense grape juice every time someone ordered wartime stimulant packs. The guards watched with a mixture of bemusement and terror. You couldn't hurt children, at least not on record, but you also couldn't let them disassemble high-security communication consoles to see how they blink. Several species took turns approaching. The Plaren ambassador offered an educational holodisc on proper behavior in negotiation zones. The boy bit it. A Tremolaxian steward, tall and fluid-skinned, dared to kneel and speak gently. Grace offered him a dried plum. "I don't eat," the steward said. "Then you should," Grace replied. "It might make you less twitchy." The steward blinked all 9 of his ocular nodes and walked away. 32 feet above them, in a private dome of starlight and steel, King Gozer the Unifier stood with his hands behind his back, watching them through a one-way lens. He was older now, his ceremonial bone crown fused to his skull, his robes a swirl of light-absorbing threads that moved like smoke. He had conquered 16 systems by the age of 40, instated universal law, abolished 4 types of heresy, and burned 12 planets so that others would kneel faster. And yet, these 2 small humans disturbed him in a way no armada ever had. "Why do they not fear us?" he asked. His voice curled with venom. His generals, poised in shimmering armor, glanced at each other. The tallest one, decorated in crimson metals harvested from collapsed stars, stepped forward and bowed. "Because they are children, Majesty." "No," Gozer murmured. "Because they are bait." He turned sharply, his robe snapping. There is something beneath their eyes. The girl watches like a commander. The boy breaks systems without fear. What do humans always say? That madness skips a generation. "Sir, they are not unaccompanied," he snapped. "Find the handler. Find the shadow behind the curtain." No human releases offspring into neutral space unless they are sure of what waits nearby. Orders rippled. Scanners sang. Stealth probes scoured for unusual life forms. Nothing came up. No guardian registered. No ship hailed. No trace. Only 2 laughing children and a vending machine that now played human lullabies at max volume. Gozer narrowed his eyes. Detain them. A beat of silence. Then an odd, armored boots clicked. 8 elite guards descended into the lounge. "Hi." Milo waved, grape juice box in one hand, a panel wire in the other. "Are you here for the jello guns?" "There are no jello," one began. Grace stepped between her brother and the guards. Her eyes, dark as new earth, studied each one. Not afraid. Measuring. "You're about to make a very big mistake," she said softly. The guards paused. Her voice hadn't trembled. And then, without warning, every digital device in the room flickered. Static washed over the intercoms. A high, humming tone, neither mechanical nor natural, rose like a migraine behind the eyes. The lights didn't just dim, they gasped and blinked out like candles under breath. One by one. And then, a voice. Old. Female. Calm. Not transmitted, but present, as if it lived in the marrow of the walls. "Return them. Now." The guards froze. One laughed nervously. "That's rich. Someone trying to play." He stopped. His head, just his head, disappeared. There was no blood, no sound. One blink and it was gone. The rest of his body remained upright for a moment, before folding like a sack of dropped linen. The room screamed. All across Vatra 9, Pressure valves burst. Drones fell from the air like flies struck dead mid-buzz. Translation grids reversed, and two diplomats got locked in a loop of speaking each other's birth traumas. In the control room, Gozer didn't flinch. He turned to his communication officer, whose hands were shaking visibly. Locate the source. We can't. There's no signal origin. Then trace the void. Find the place where sound isn't. The officer's fingers blurred. One result came up. A tiny space dock, unregistered. A drift pod in Bay 13 Zeta, parked between an oxygen hauler and a compost freighter. It hadn't pinged security because it emitted no signature at all. The logs, once decrypted, showed it had arrived 12 hours ago. There were no crew manifests. No names. But the docking camera had recorded something. A woman. Late 50s, maybe early 60s. Slender, not tall. Wearing a shawl and carrying a pie tin. Her gray hair was in a loose braid. She walked with a slight limp and patted the nose of a passing cargo droid like it was a dog. Is that a threat? The officer whispered. No, Gozer said. That's a warning. His knuckles tightened behind his back. For the first time in a decade, he felt the faint tickle of sweat on his brow. Bring the children aboard. Bring her too. Politely. And prepare the silence chamber. But, Majesty, the chamber hasn't been. She's not to be harmed. Gozer turned, eyes narrowing. Yet, moments later, Milo and Grace sat in a gleaming shuttle, offered fizzy drinks and a basket of fruit. They looked unimpressed. A quiet knock came from the loading bay hatch. No ship had docked. Yet the hatch creaked open. She stood there in a faded coat, hands dusted in flour, pie tin still warm. The guards drew weapons. She gave them a look. Nothing more. And the temperature dropped 6 degrees. She stepped inside. Grace ran to her. Milo followed. You got the apple one, he grinned. She kissed both their foreheads. Of course. It's Tuesday. The guards didn't speak. They couldn't. Her presence ate the air. She didn't rage. Didn't accuse. She simply looked around like a teacher inspecting a poorly cleaned classroom. Her gaze found the tallest guard. Lead the way, dear. He obeyed. Inside the silence chamber, the air shimmered with defense sigils. Runes scavenged from 10 galaxies, designed to contain psionics, radiation, quantum manipulation, and entropy anomalies. The room had held genocidal prophets and collapse-time criminals. Now it held her. Gozer entered. Alone. He studied her. She sat cross-legged, knitting. She looked up, smiled. Would you like a scarf? Who are you? A mother. He scowled. You are more than that. She nodded. I am. What do you call yourself? Names are tricks, she said, looping yarn. You're fond of tricks, aren't you? You've killed one of my men. I ended him. There's a difference. He was about to scare my boy. They are not your soldiers. She gave a half-smile. Aren't they? I am King Gozer, he said. The unifier of the outer rings. Do you know what that means? She tilted her head. It means you've never lost. Which means you've never fought someone you couldn't bribe, bomb, or scare. He leaned in. Until now. She set her knitting down gently. You have made the first mistake, she said, voice smooth as river stones. You threatened the only thing that anchors me. Children. No, her eyes, once soft, went winter cold. Mine. He stepped back. The runes on the walls sparked. Tell me, she said lightly, do you know what humans used to do to wolves who came near their lambs? He didn't answer. She stood and smiled. Good, she said. You'll learn fast. In the deepest corridor of the ship, a sensor beeped once. And then, never again. Back in the silence chamber, the lights dimmed. And the walls began to whisper. The silence chamber was built to hold nightmares. It had no corners, no edges, no sound but the low breathing of the walls themselves, sculpted from gravity-dense alloys and symbiotic memory stone. Even time, in that room, moved cautiously. It held stories of fractured gods and unmade kings. It had never held a woman like her. She sat on the floor with her legs tucked beneath her, hands wrapped around a chipped tin teacup. No steam rose from it, and yet the scent of chamomile drifted outward, warm, floral, and oddly nostalgic. Her eyes were calm. Her fingers were still dusted in flour. Across the barrier, separated by layers of technology and hope, King Gozer watched her through a veil of polarized light. He stood flanked by 2 recorders and 3 analysts, each scribbling in 6 dimensions. "She is not psychic," murmured one analyst. "No detectable emission. No neural enhancement. No chronotemporal anomalies." "She has violated entropy," another whispered, staring at the live feed. "Look at her shadow. It doesn't match the light angle. Run it again." No. The word didn't come from the analyst. It came from her. Soft. Barely spoken. Every system in the room hiccuped. Gozer held up a hand. The others fell silent. "Woman," he said. She sipped her tea. Her braid had loosened, silver threads catching the dim light. "I would know your designation." "I would know what you put in your hair," she replied. "It smells like melted plastic and cowardice." One of the analysts coughed to cover a laugh. The king's glance turned him to ice. "You speak lightly," he said. "I do everything lightly," she said. "That's why the floor still holds. You killed one of my men." She lifted a hand. "That was not death. That was mercy. The kind you rarely grant. Why did you come here?" "To collect my children. And remind your galaxy," she said, rising slowly, "what the price of arrogance is." Gozer stepped closer to the barrier. "You expect me to believe a single human woman?" "Oh, I'm not human, darling." Her smile deepened, slow and sad. "I just passed for one." The silence thickened. She let it stretch, sipping her tea, as if time itself bowed to her pacing. "My name," she said softly, "is unspoken in your tongue. The closest your myths have come is Baba Yaga." The analysts went still. One reached for an external link. "I wouldn't," she said. The link snapped in his hand like dry wood. Gozer's voice dropped low. "That is a children's tale. A witch. A ghost from Slavic ruins. And yet here I am," she said, spreading her arms, "drinking tea in your unbreachable vault." He narrowed his eyes. "What are you?" She tilted her head. "An old story. A quiet disaster. A mother who ran out of reasons to be kind." He studied her, but the more he looked, the less he saw. Her form wavered, not visually, but conceptually, like trying to grasp a memory slipping backward in time. "I see you've decorated the walls with prayers," she said, nodding at the runes. "They contain gods, but not grandmothers." She stepped closer. Her presence felt like snowfall with teeth. "I used to live in a cottage," she said. "Wood walls. Chicken legs. The works. Then the stars called, and I thought, why not? People are no less foolish in space than they are in the forest. Just shinier. You're mad." "No," she said, turning the cup in her palm. "I'm eternal. It's worse." Gozer paced now, not out of strategy, but unease. "Why now? Why children? Why here?" She looked at him, something soft flickering behind the furnace of her gaze. "Because someone has to watch." "Watch what?" "Your test." He froze. "Explain." "You didn't know it," she said gently, "but you were chosen for observation. Humanity, true humanity, has been gone from public contact for nearly 80 years. Retired. Quiet. We retreated not because we feared you, but because we wanted to see what you would do without us." She bent down, touched the floor. The stone rippled like water. "So far," she said, "you've burned 12 planets, colonized 6 species into extinction, and enslaved another 3. They were weak," he spat. "No," she rose again. "They were different. And you panicked." Her voice didn't rise, yet the room leaned closer. "We left behind only the smallest pieces of ourselves. Orphans. Drift pods. Broken satellites full of lullabies. They were not traps, they were invitations. To see if you would protect, nurture, or exploit." Gozer felt the slow horror building. "You sent children." "We sent mirrors," she corrected. "And you spat at your own reflection." A faint scream echoed from the hallway. One of the guards, perhaps. Another malfunction. Or worse. She paid it no mind. "I am the hand at the cradle," she said. the flame that waits beneath the hearth. I was born of grief and shaped by story. You, she said, eyes locked to his, just kidnapped my grandchildren. The king turned sharply to his analysts. Activate the containment grid. Full nullification. Compress the chamber. Do it now. One analyst nodded and reached toward the console. His hand passed through it. Not glitched. Not broken. Gone. The room reformed in colors none of them had names for. The runes shriveled like dry bark. Gravity reversed once, just once, long enough to make every man in the room taste the moment of their own death. Then it snapped back. She hadn't moved. You are in violation of. She raised one brow. Are you scolding me? He clenched his jaw. You are a threat to galactic stability. I am galactic stability, she said. You just forgot the shape of the roots while climbing the tree. Gozer opened his mouth, then stopped. His personal datapad, secure and air-gapped, lit up. A single symbol pulsed on its surface. It was not alien. It was human. Worse, it was old human. A carved hut. A chicken's leg. A child's hand. The same symbol had been found etched into ruins on defunct colony worlds. At first, dismissed as graffiti. Later, forbidden. Buried. Every empire that had studied it too closely no longer existed. He stared. You've marked my ship. She gave a small, polite nod. You've marked my empire. I have made no threats, she said. Only tea. You will not leave. I never intended to. She turned to the empty corner of the room. It shimmered, then resolved into a small table. Her doing, or always there, no one could say. Upon it, a second teacup appeared and a pot. Will you sit? She asked. No. Then it will go cold. She sat again, and for a moment the room seemed smaller. Or she seemed larger. Her shadow stretched wrong. Her smile too gentle. Have you ever watched a nest of wasps build itself under your roof? She asked. No. Then you don't understand. It's not about killing them. It's about deciding when. The lights dimmed. From somewhere deep in the ship, a door screamed open, and a child's voice cried out, not in fear, but in laughter. The sound echoed like a bell in a graveyard. She didn't smile. Not this time. She looked up, and her eyes, green, brown, or black depending on who watched, narrowed. Your mistake wasn't hurting them, she said. It was thinking they were alone. The last light went out, and in the dark, something knocked, once, twice, on the inside of the hull. Then again, but faster, and again. Now, in rhythm. Then from above. Then from below. All over the ship. Knocking, knocking, knocking. As if something vast had arrived. Something that knew the door would open. Soon. The doors weren't built to open. They were warnings, carved in old metal and fused with prayer scripts. Not locks, just lines in the dirt. Thresholds drawn to keep what lurked on the other side from leaking into the stars. But fear and curiosity have always been siblings. And curiosity usually wins. The first door opened on a dare. 2 young Tremelaxian enforcers, fresh from academy, high on bravado, entered Baba Yaga's drift pod. A strange, forgotten cabin tethered to Bay 13 Zeta, the size of a small transport vessel, yet officially marked as no spatial mass detected. The older one laughed as the latch gave way, not noticing that the hatch side opened, rather than hissed. Not noticing the scent, faint birch smoke and something else, like cloves steeped too long. The pod's interior wasn't a pod at all. It was a cottage. Wood walls. A stove, gently crackling. Woven rugs. A coat hanging by the door that looked like it had never known cold. A rocking chair swaying slowly, though no air moved. A cat, not mechanical, not organic, just present, watched them from the mantel with eyes like rusted stars. Recording malfunction, muttered the younger enforcer. Impossible interior volume. Wrong word, whispered the older. This isn't malfunction. It's wrong. Behind them, the door closed. And vanished. Their screams never reached command. The second door opened on accident. A maintenance drone tasked with stabilizing fluctuating energy readings near the silence chamber brushed a wall that hadn't been there yesterday. A seam split. From the seam, a handle grew, a cast-iron thing shaped like a knotted braid. The drone's data feeds corrupted in real time. Optical input became hand-drawn sketches. Internal compass spun like a top. The final log simply read, "She sees us." After that, the drone disappeared. The technicians who reviewed the footage later tore their own eyes out. The third door wasn't opened. It simply appeared. Across the ship. In quarters. In storage holds. In officer bunks. Some appeared as closet doors. Some as cellar hatches. Others as cupboard drawers that stretched too deep. Every one of them smelled faintly like burnt cinnamon and old grief. And they whispered, softly, not in threats, but in memories. One officer opened a drawer to find her grandmother folding laundry inside. Another found his first pet, still waiting, tail wagging in an endless loop. A third saw a vision of a birthday party he never had, but always wanted. They entered. None returned. By the third cycle, half the crew of the unending Triumph was unaccounted for. Gozer convened emergency protocol in the Hall of Absolute Reason, a place carved in crystal, woven with logic threads, and guarded by algorithms designed to block anything not strictly real. He paced as his top minds reported in clipped, terrified tones. "There are now 27 structural anomalies," said Commander Virol. "None existed in blueprints. All are growing. We've sealed them," another said. "Welded over. Encased in gravity shells. It doesn't matter. The doors reroute." Gozer's hands trembled. He clenched them. "How is this possible?" "She's not breaking the ship," murmured a voice from the corner. "She's folding it." All eyes turned to Analyst Remington. He had aged a decade in 2 hours. His hands were covered in ink, though no one used pens anymore. "She's rethreading reality through narrative causality, making the ship part of her myth, and us part of the ending." The king's face hardened. "I want every remaining drone scanning the core. Purge anomalies. Burn compartments. Evacuate civilians. Wipe everything." Rem didn't look up. "We can't burn story, Your Majesty. Not once it's told itself true." At that moment, the lights flickered again. But this time, something replaced them. Stars. Not the sterile pinpoints of map space, but ancient constellations, familiar only to old Earth. The Big Dipper. Orion's Belt. Cassiopeia. Projected onto every reflective surface aboard the ship. Something, was rewiring what the ship remembered. "Where is she?" Gozer roared. "She hasn't moved," said Virol. "Still in the silence chamber." "Bring the girl." The room stilled. Grace. She'd been placed in diplomatic observation, surrounded by logic fences and emotion dampeners. Treated gently, spoken to like a skittish animal. She hadn't flinched once. When they entered her room, she was drawing pictures of doors, each one identical to the anomalies now spreading across the ship. "Who taught you this?" barked the lieutenant. Grace looked up, calm, collected, 9 years old and far too quiet. "My mother," she said. "She's not your mother. She's—" "I know who she is," Grace interrupted. "And she's mine." They took her. Gozer waited in the throne chamber, a place he rarely used, for its excessive grandeur felt wasteful. Yet now, it suited the moment. He stood tall as Grace was brought in. She didn't bow. "Your mother is destroying this ship," he said. "She's not destroying it," Grace said softly. "She's turning it inside out, so you can see what you really are." He stepped forward, towering. "She's violating natural law." "She is natural law," Grace whispered. "The kind that waits until you've dug your own grave." He stared at her. This child. So small. So certain. "She's testing us," he muttered. "No," Grace said. "You tested her." Behind him, the throne's backrest cracked, though no pressure touched it. Gozer turned to his guards. "Initiate planetary purge protocol. I want human colonies across the mid-veil removed." Now, Grace's breath caught. For the first time, fear flickered in her eyes. Not for herself. For the others. That was his mistake, assuming she was only a child. As the command was relayed, a quiet beep echoed through the room. A signal. From nowhere. And everywhere, the royal fleet's long-range sensors activated. But instead of confirming launch sequences, they froze. Then reversed. Ships began turning, systems failing, engines misfiring. But not randomly, strategically. A pattern, a spiral, a net, encircling his empire. Impossible, Virol whispered. No human fleet has been seen in over 70 years. They have no power left. The screen showed otherwise. Thousands of vessels, hidden in asteroid belts, embedded in mining colonies, disguised as cargo haulers, each one silent, now waking, one by one, each bearing the same symbol. A hut, a chicken's leg, a child's hand. Then the comms lit up. One voice, familiar, tired, gentle. I gave you every chance to be kind, said Baba Yaga, and still you chose to strike. What do you want? Gozer screamed. To see if your kind deserves stars. She sighed. Seems not. And with that, every door aboard the unending Triumph opened. All at once. From each poured light, not white, not bright, but something older than photons. Warm, heavy, judging. And the shadows that followed it wore no faces. But they remembered yours. The throne room was not quiet. It was holding its breath. Gozer stood surrounded by splinters of his empire. Advisors clutching data slates that spat nothing but static. Guards gripping weapons they no longer trusted. Every screen, every wall, every polished surface in the chamber now pulsed with the same image. A flickering silhouette of a hut on crooked legs, haloed by fire. They've breached containment in every sector, Virol whispered, voice shaking. We've lost the barracks, the flight bay, even the observation ring. Every door that opened, something came through. Gozer's hands twitched at his sides. He wore no armor now, only the crown, bone-welded, a symbol of unbreakable rule. Its edges dug into his brow, and blood beaded along the seam. I want her dead. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The air twisted around him like it feared what he might say next. Virol swallowed. She's not just on the ship anymore, Majesty. Then where is she? She's in the ship. Gozer turned slowly. Explain. Virol stepped back, as though any answer would be the wrong one. She's rewritten it. The ship's memory. Its logic. It remembers her now, as if she's always been part of it. The king's jaw locked. A story. Yes, said a second voice, quiet and low. Everyone turned. Analyst Rem was there, pale as frost, his eyes sunken like moons in collapse. He held a folded piece of paper. Real paper. He unfolded it carefully. It's not just a ship, he whispered. It's the entire fleet. What? We always thought humans lacked scale, that they gave up on expansion. But it wasn't retreat. It was seeding. They planted myths, scattered fragments. They let us build high enough that we wouldn't notice the bones under our foundation. Gozer stepped forward, snatched the paper. On it was a list, not of planets, not of coordinates, but of names. Names of children, dozens of them, human, scattered across colonies. Each one assigned to a diplomatic mission. Each one accidentally found. Each one escorted to safety after causing minimal, odd disruptions. Every one of them related. Every one of them hers. Her grandchildren, Gozer whispered. He looked up as the realization settled into the room like ash. The human war machine hadn't vanished. It had disguised itself as a lullaby. Contact the outer fleet, he barked. Initiate fail-safe sequence. I want all jump cores armed. If we can't win, we'll burn them all with us. Virol hesitated. Majesty. They wanted war, Gozer hissed. They'll have it. But they never fired, Rem said. We started this. Gozer turned on him like a blade. So what? You want us to kneel to a fairy tale? A new voice spoke. I'd recommend it. They all froze. The voice didn't come through comms. She stood just behind the throne. No door. No warning. No flash. Just presence. She wore the same faded coat. Her hair now loose, flowing in tendrils that caught wind that wasn't there. Her eyes held stillness too old to measure. Baba Yaga. She stepped down the dais, toward Gozer. No one stopped her. Weapons remained drawn, but useless. The metal of every blade, barrel, and badge quivered, as if caught between wanting to melt or flee. "I gave you a pie," she said. "A small peace offering. I came with kindness. You came with deception." "I came as a mother," she said softly. "You responded as a tyrant. You murdered my men. I finished what you started." Her steps were slow, purposeful. Not menace, but mourning. "You mistook silence for weakness," she said. "Mistook joy for foolishness. Mistook the strange for the soft." Gozer stepped back. "You don't understand the weight I bear. The galaxy is unstable. Without my rule, it falls apart." She stopped. "Then perhaps," she whispered, "you were never the glue, only the crack." He lifted a hand, his ring igniting, summoning a sphere of burning entropy. It pulsed once, charged for planetary decimation. And she sighed. A tired, maternal sigh. The sphere blinked out. He stared at his palm. Nothing. No power. Just a ring. Ordinary now. "What did you do?" She tilted her head. "I reminded it who invented fire." In that moment, the walls of the throne room peeled away, not physically, but perceptually. The galaxy beyond came into view. Hundreds of human ships now orbited the fleet. They didn't attack. They just watched. Like wolves circling a campfire. Waiting. "She was never your enemy," Grace said. The girl stood near the steps now, her brother beside her, holding a small wooden toy he hadn't had before. A bear with missing eyes. "You brought them here," Gozer whispered. "I sent them here," Baba Yaga corrected, "to see if you would protect them, or prey on them." He opened his mouth, closed it. She turned, almost gentle. "You failed." Outside, every ship lit up, not with weapons, but with stories. Projected from hulls, they played moments in time. Human moments. A man helping an alien child walk for the first time. A woman kneeling at a foreign grave, planting earth roses. A baker feeding an entire station from 3 loaves and 1 miracle. Each story bright, unassuming, fragile, each one a thread. "We stitched this galaxy together with hope," she said. "Not with war." Gozer fell to his knees. "You were never a threat," he said broken. "You were a test." "No," she said. "You were." She stepped closer, reached down, touched his crown, and it cracked. With the sound of old regrets. "You ruled with fear," she said. "You should have ruled like a parent." And she removed it. It fell to the floor with a hollow clang. The ship's system sighed. Lights steadied. The doors closed. Not by force, but by choice. The myth was done watching. Now it would remember. "Please," Gozer whispered. "What happens now?" She looked down at him. Soft. Not cruel, but final. "You sleep." And he did. Not death. Just stillness. She turned. Her grandchildren joined her. Viral stepped aside, trembling. "Will you leave us?" he asked. "No," she said. "But we'll step away." Grace took her hand. Milo tugged at her sleeve. "Can we go home now?" She smiled. "Not yet. One last thing." They reached the bridge. She touched the command console. It flickered. And from the speakers, a song played. A lullaby. Old. Earthborn. Sung in a voice no one recognized, but everyone felt. The fleet heard it. So did the galaxy. Soft. Forgiving. But edged with something vast. Something old. A warning wrapped in a kiss. In time, the story would fade. New rulers would rise. Old ones would return. But somewhere in every diplomatic chamber, in every treaty, in every whispered tale told between stars, a memory would remain. Of her. Of a door that shouldn't have opened. And a crown that cracked not with war, but with a grandmother's disappointment.